Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. We are so thrilled to have you. My name is Alexandra Alvarado. I'm the Director of Marketing and Education here at the American Apartment Owners Association. Today, we are going to be talking about how to scale your rental business without hiring more help, something that all of us would love to be able to do, but it's always easier said than done. However, we have with us Matt Newman, who has a ton of experience doing this and managing remote. So we're going to be using some of his expertise and some of the tech and tools that he has to talk about today to help us achieve that. So a couple of things before we get started. We are recording as always, and we will send you the recording tomorrow. We will also be sending you the PowerPoint slides. So you will be able to access all of this tomorrow and review anything in case you need to head out early or you just want to share it with anyone. We'll provide that for you. And also, Matt's information will be in that email. So if you want to reach out with any follow-up questions, you can. We will have time for Q&A during this session. And at the end, we'll be answering some questions. If some pop up that are relevant in the moment, I'll see if I can interrupt Matt to ask them. Otherwise, we're going to save them to the end. Make sure that you put all of your questions in the question box and not the chat. That helps us keep track of everything a little bit better. And so with all that said, Matt, thank you so much for coming. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our audience with your next slide here. So Matt has over 15 years of experience managing properties remotely. He's personally managed his properties from 1,000 miles away, as well as has worked with property managers. He's tackled issues with language barriers, maintenance, and more. And his tenure at InstaShow Plus focuses on removing those barriers in real estate sales and the rental and management business. So, Matt, COO of InstaShow Plus and rental property owner, thank you so much for coming on to talk to our audience and give us some ideas for how we can accomplish this successful remote management and scaling.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. And thank you, Alexandra, for allowing me to do this. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. As you mentioned, I've managed properties from 1,000 miles away, some intentionally, some unintentionally, but that's the way it goes. I've managed properties in Puerto Rico from Rhode Island and properties in Rhode Island from Puerto Rico, both short-term and long-term. So I have some experience in that and working with language barriers and distance barriers, etc. But there's some other struggles that I kind of want to share with you before we get started here. So this is Puerto Rico. This is my tiny little island where I spend some time. And this is not so tiny. This is called Hurricane Maria that hit us in 2017. If you see this little circle here, that's the eye of the storm. Also underneath that eye of the storm is where two of my condos were at that time. So you can imagine the tumultuous situation that was going on there. And just understand the scope. I mean, here's the hurricane over Puerto Rico, and here's it overlaid over the US. So imagine a hurricane that stretched from Maryland all the way through most of Georgia, coming over an island the size of Connecticut. So this was creating a tremendous struggle for obviously my property management and my revenue, et cetera. Just to give you an idea, we correlated the size, but as far as wind speed, we had wind speeds of over 215 miles an hour sustained, with roughly 6 to 10 verified tornadoes. If we have any fact checkers in the audience and you look this up, you'll probably see wind speeds were about 175 miles an hour. 175 is when the storm knocked out the weather tower at the top of our rainforest, and that's the last registered wind speed. But we do have verified speeds of about 215 miles an hour. We didn't have power for 3 months. So you're like, how do you break even with 3 months of no power and anticipated no tourism for 9 to 12 months after that? So you talk about problems and issues and concerns when you're looking at your rental business, when it's your sustainability and your lifeblood. This was very detrimental, not only to myself, but probably another 50 or so property managers and owners in my neighborhood. So we had to band together and figure this out. So we're going to talk about some of the strategies that I've used in the past, as well as currently. And one of those big strategies is understanding your market and the shifts in your market and the changing paradigm, and you can be able to keep on top of that. So, for example, In this situation, we had no tourism coming in, and we had no power, we had nothing. What we did have, though, we did have National Guard coming in, we did have FEMA coming in, and we did have third-party contractors that working on our electrical grid. So we basically turned on a dime and reboarded up our properties. So just, we have they like the Mediterranean look around here. So what they did was had clay roof tiles that acted as missiles and went through everyone's windows during the storm. So we boarded up. We added security to the properties to get them livable. And then we started working with FEMA and third-party contractors to come in and do long-term rentals. That was able to sustain us until the tourism came back and about a year after that. So just so you kind of have an idea of my background, I've had these properties, I've flipped properties, I've done both long-term and short-term. I've used technologies obviously like Airbnb, but Google AdWords for searches, as well as conversational AI to work with potential renters and handle questions back and forth. I did work with some aspects of property management as well. So I'll talk about some of those. And then just, the shameless business plug for InstaShow. Obviously, one of the things that we do is we focus on removing barriers in the showing process, such as no-show appointments, owner safety, things like that that are all relevant to all of us. And last but not least, you can kind of see the distance of where I was trying to manage from and where I was managing to. So some big struggles out there. So a little bit about our agenda today. What we're going to do is we're going to spend some time discussing common challenges in the rental and property management space, talk through some strategies to scale business, look at automation and technology, and strategies to expand your portfolio. The core of the discussion is really around the strategies to scale the business. You can look at some or all of these strategies depending on how they fit your market to hopefully empower yourself to expand your portfolio. And we'll also cover some basic time management strategies, go through some case studies, look at some sample solutions, and end up with Q&A. So a big part of what we're going to talk about at the beginning here is how do we make ourselves more efficient? Because we really can't expand, it's difficult to expand without becoming more efficient in what we do today. So we had a question for all of you that signed up for the webinar, and you all filled it out. I appreciate that. So what we talk about here is what are the challenges that people are facing, whether it's finding and screening tenants. That was a big one. About 35% of folks had that issue of how do I find the right people? And once I find them, how do I screen them properly? Keeping up with the showings and scheduling, not as important, but relevant to some. Reducing your vacancy time, because we know vacancy time is lost money. And how do we solve that riddle? Managing maintenance was another big one. I'll talk about an excellent solution that I've used there. And then we'll go into scaling the portfolio without adding a lot of extra work. So, Alexandra, if you don't mind, I think we have a question.
Yes, we do. Let me go ahead and pull that up just a moment. All right. Which of these processes do you use to screen your tenants today? So, manual paper processes and calling references, a background check service, a review on social or reviewing their social media. I'm hoping all of you say a background check service because that's going to be probably the most accurate. Please be 100%. Uh, you can select more than one here. Okay, maybe you do all three. Maybe you just do the background and that's it. Calling references is great too, though. So curious to see what these results come back. I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds here to make sure we get at least half of you to participate. We're almost there. All right, we're at the halfway mark. Last chance to get your answer in, and we'll show the results. Okay, I'm going to show the results here. So, fortunately, most of you said a background check service.
Yeah, and it looks like a good amount of people do multiple processes as well. So excellent, excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about this social idea of social media. This is new to some folks, and obviously you want to, whatever you do, you obviously don't want to make that your only criteria, but use it as one piece to get the information that you need. So let's talk firstly about screenings, manual paper applications, and as I call references, calling references, phone tag. anyone knows that a reference is really only as good as how many friends I have, right? If I have 3 friends, I can put them as references, and I'll tell them, hey, can you be a nice reference for me? So there's not a tremendous amount of validity to having references. It's great to just challenge the tenant to make them put that on there, but it doesn't really hold a lot of metal in the conversation. So what you can do is you can complement the manual process as well with social media checks for added verification, and kind of give you an idea of why you would want to do social media. If you were looking at someone that is either renting short-term and or long-term, check their social media. Are they having house parties in there where they're currently staying? Do they have a lot of pictures with pets in their house and your home is no pets and they say don't have any pets? You can also get a gauge of their employment history. So you can look for, say, Facebook or LinkedIn, and really just get an idea of the stability of the tenant that you may not find from a manual process, paper process, and you may not really see on an automated check as well. It's going to be some of those variables that will tell you not necessarily they want to go pay their rent, but how are they going to treat your property and treat your neighbors as well. So it's an interesting piece to use there. We also do background checks at InstaShow for all of our showings and visitors, done in a matter of seconds. But I want to relate one thing to you from my experience. You want to know, well, that'll be the last bullet point here, establishing consistent criteria with minimal exceptions. I originally had this as establishing consistent criteria. Then I went back and said, wait, I don't do this myself. So I can't really say that. It's important, and here I'll tell you why. We have a weekend here in April where kids come down from a lot of the private schools and just throw a party all weekend right before their graduation. And it's known, it happens. We try to curb it. It's like a spring break in Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach several years ago. That's kind of what it's like here. And what'll happen is parents will rent the place. The kids will show up. There won't be a parent in sight, and you'll have what should be 6 people in your property, and you'll find out through neighbors or external cameras that it was more like 12. So what we've done is certain times of the year, knowing what's going on, we'll add extra criteria into our rental agreements. So in this time frame in April, we force a mandatory insurance policy to take out. We also ensure that whoever is registering the house knows that they are legally responsible for everything and anything that happens with those people on this property. So we do make some changes based on our demographics. Where I live in Rhode Island, it is a 2-season type of environment. We have short-term renters during the summer, and we also have college renters the other 9 months. So again, you have to change your leases and change your documentation depending on your audience. So just something to think about there. And then again, as Alexandra said, online applications, as much as you can, let's get it online. It gives you a good starting point. And I like online applications to really get this initial background criminal financial. And I consider that phase 1, right? If they pass that, then I can do some additional screening if I feel it's necessary. All right, let's take a look at some calendaring and showing solutions. I won't spend a lot of time here simply because this 8% of you folks indicated showings and calendaring were not a top priority, or a top priority. So Calendly is one solution you can use. It's a very basic calendaring system. Our InstaShow system is another, and it allows you do scheduling for showings of your property, and we also do facial recognition with potential renters, as well as doing a cursory background check before they even get to see the property. So it's a security issue. It's a safety issue for you as an owner or property manager going to see someone that you don't know and give you a bit of comfort. We can also ask how many people are going to attend this showing, so you understand if you're going to be seeing 2 people or 6 people. So the security is very important to us. But you're looking at online scheduling tools. What's great about an online tool is one option you could do, you can offer self showings if it's, for example, an empty apartment. You can reduce your back and forth scheduling headaches. But the best thing is you can also send reminders, right? If I'm going to see something next weekend, I might get busy and I might forget, but if I'm getting reminders from a scheduling system, it's really going to help me manage my time and not forget about that as well. Virtual tours are great as well. So you can create a compelling video of a property with dialogue, people walking the property. I really encourage there to be dialogue, someone walking through the property, talking about the facets and the excitement, things about that property. They're amazing. You also want to be walking around the property and discuss the location benefits. It helps by saves time by filtering out people that might not be interested. And it can also open you up to relocation, people that aren't local and can't see. And here's one example. This is actually my realtor friend, Maria, created this video.
So, Matt, I don't think this is sharing the sound. Is it supposed to have sound with it?
It's just a musical background, so that's okay.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
imagine it's some beautiful music,
it's a
everyone.
wonderful melody. Yeah, it
This is
was.
very well done, though.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of the things I like about it is it combines drone footage. It combines inside camera effects that are nice and smooth. And another part of the video actually shows the proximity to the beach and golf and tennis and all those cool things. So it really gives a great perspective of what the property can offer, and it's very, very well done. So last but not least on this page is I'm going to talk about showing times. Start looking, if you've been in this long enough, you might get an idea of when are the best times to show your property. When do you have the least amount of no-shows? I mean, you might schedule tours of people to visit your property at say 5:30 in the evening, and they may get caught in traffic a lot, or they may get stuck at work, and you find out that those are a lot of no-shows, or people that call last minute and say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic, I can't make it today. So maybe those aren't the best times. Maybe look at times when all the decision makers are able to attend. So if you've got a home for a family, and it might be best to show that on a weekend when both parents aren't working, when the kids are out of school, and everyone can come see it, and you alleviate the issue of having to do multiple tours of the property. Then also think about time of the day, right? When do you find you get a better reaction? You get a better reaction during the daytime when everyone can see the neighborhood, get an idea of the tranquility of the neighborhood, or do you get a better response at night? And there's no right answer to this. Every locale is different. But just start to think about those things. And as you grow your portfolio, start to keep track of, okay, you know what, I remember I had a lot more success on a Saturday or a Wednesday evening than I did any other time. So let's see if we can get some folks scheduled at that time. Alexandra, I think we have another question.
Yes, we do. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So, how far away do you live from your rental properties? 0 to 20, 20 to 50, or over 50 miles. Some of you might have properties maybe close by and far away. That's always a thing. Maybe you started with a property in your neighborhood and then you went out of state for, investment opportunities elsewhere. That happens too, I've seen. So let me give you all a little longer here so we can get at least half of you to participate. We're almost there. All right, let's go ahead and show here. Quite a mix. So most of you, 0 to 20, 61% of you, 20 to 50 miles. So you could still probably drive pretty quickly there if you needed to, 13%, and 37% of you over 50 miles.
All right, my over 50-mile friends, I feel your pain. So we'll hopefully come up with some strategies actually for all three categories today. So here's an example of a property in Philadelphia that the remote owner was 100 miles away, and he actually worked with us, InstaShow, to get this property leased. So he had cameras inside the property just for showing purposes, and then obviously remove the cameras or give the renter access only to those cameras. And then he also had a digital lockbox on there. You can see this igloo work lockbox. And what happens is anytime someone's interested in seeing the property, He had done a quick background check on those folks, made sure the banking info was correct, got the basics that we talked about earlier, did that online check. Then once everything cleared that, people requested a showing through InstaShow. They gave their facial recognition, did a background check. They can go to the apartment and their phone then connects to the lock. They can see the property. When they go in, the cameras turn on. And this person from 100 miles away can have a dialogue with someone going through the property uh, at a remote distance, either through the cameras or just talking on a phone. He also ran an eviction check and looked at once someone passed all the criteria, he thought they were very serious. And what happened here is he doubled the number of showings he typically had. He rented this property without even meeting the tenant face to face. Now that might scare some of you, but this area he was fine with. He had no problems doing that. Again, that's your discretion. And then he finally met the person 2 months later for one reason or another. So this was an example of far away, was able to show the property, get it leased without meeting the tenant. So it's just an example of how these technologies can work together. All right, let's dig into the evil V word called vacancy. How do we get rid of vacancies or reduce vacancies, obviously? So one of the most effective ways is online marketing, right? So you want to look at multiple platforms that you can be on. You want to look at maybe cost savings for subscriptions. There are solutions out there. I'm going to talk about one a little bit later called Turbo Tenant that offers a whole bunch of different solutions to getting your properties rented at a very low cost. So it combines a lot of different services. Also look at social media advertising. So you get your Facebook and your Google ads, and you can target specific demographics. So you want to definitely take a look at that, and you might be able to use social media to target by location. So if you've got a new company coming into your neighborhood and they have a division down a few towns down or miles away, you know people are going to be relocating to your neighborhood, start targeting your ads out towards where the relos are going to be coming from as well. So you can really expand beyond your local geography. Pricing strategies. Pricing strategies are extremely important. Talk about this from a short-term and long-term standpoint. So from a short-term standpoint, I've used a company called AirDNA, and they change my prices almost on a weekly basis, if not quicker, depending on what the population looks like for rentals, what the occupancy is, what the vacancy is, and my prices will fluctuate up and down based on all of their artificial intelligence metrics. Makes my life so much easier. I tried to manage my own pricing, and it was a headache. It took such a long time, and I could never get it completely right. From a longer term rental, you can look at Rent-A-Meter is another option, Price Labs is another option. But you always want to make sure that you're in check with your rental pricing strategies to get your maximum rent and reduce your vacancy as quickly as possible. You also want to make sure you enhance your curb appeal. So make sure that the property is freshly painted. Make sure the landscaping is done. And make sure entranceways are clean, look welcoming, put a nice little sign out there, welcome to your new home, things like that, things that are going to make it look very homey to someone that is considering your property. You could also consider staging as an option to show the best utilization of the space. Again, a lot of that's also geography based and situation based. So now maintenance requests. The maintenance request, this was one of the big ones that a lot of you chimed in on that we may be struggling with. So Alexandra, I think I have a question out there that if you could ask, that'd be great.
Yes. How are you managing your maintenance issues today? So this is a single choice. Maybe it should have been multiple, but let's pick the top one that you use here. The direct communication. So you're calling them, texting them, utilizing a property maintenance software solution, utilizing an employee, instructing the tenant to work with your chosen contractor, or letting the tenant choose their own contractor. You'd have to have, I think, a good amount of trust with your tenant to choose. I've known some situations where landlords have had the same tenant for over 10 years, and I would think by then maybe,
Right,
they're almost like their own homeowner. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty rare that I've seen that happen.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like we're coming up here on a little over half of you participating, so I'll end the poll. So it looks like most of you, 68% of
Okay.
you, are directly communicating as the primary method here.
So- And nobody's letting the tenant choose their own contractor. Well done. That was a trick question. No,
All right.
awesome. That's good to see. So I think we all understand that if you're having direct communication with the tenant and the contractor, it can take a lot of your time, right? It can you're going to be calling back and forth. Okay, tenant says this is the issue. You call the contractor. You go to voicemail because they're on the job. Hopefully, they call you back by the end of the day. Then they say they can see it. Hopefully tomorrow, if it's urgent. They go out there. They call you. If they don't call you, tell you the price and the job. If they don't get you, then it's voicemail again, and you might be looking hopefully not longer than 48 hours to resolve a problem. But with phone tag and as busy we are, that could be a realistic situation. So one of the companies that I worked with is Lula. They are an excellent maintenance management company. They remove a lot of the scheduling pain points, and just caveat, I don't make anything from promoting Lula, just throwing it out there, just in case anyone's wondering. But they remove a lot of the scheduling issues. A lot of it is automated. They can also automate approval for certain types of maintenance or dollar limits. And they can also you can also have the tenant work directly with Lula through their app, so the tenant can grant approval for access as well. So you can kind of see on the bottom left here, you've got a couple of different scenarios. First one is the resident can reach out to you or the property manager. You can then feed that request into Lula, and Lula can circle back with you. Secondary, which I prefer, is the resident reaches out to Lula. And again, Lula will then reach back out to you, and you'll see the bottom section is when Lula's reaching out to their contractors. So they'll reach out to their contractors they already have contractors contracted with. Could have said that better, I'm sure, but I think you understand my point. So they already have contractors they're working with, and we'll basically farm out the job and get prices back, and then you go in and improve that. The best thing about this, in my opinion, is I don't want to keep track of my contractor's insurance, making sure they're insured and they're bonded and their reputation. I don't have time for that. So Lula does that for me. They make sure all of their contractors have their credentials. They check up on them. They make sure they are quality contractors. So I found it best to really remove myself from as much of the maintenance activities I can and set thresholds as to when I should be involved. So air conditioner broke, needs cleaning. I don't need to be involved in that. That happens all the time. There's a foundation issue. Yeah, I think I might want to be involved in that one. So just to give you some perspective, Lula is a great application and it's very cost effective. If you just think of the amount of hours that it takes you to manage maintenance and you see their cost, you'd be like, why am I doing this anymore? And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right, so now let's go into some of the tools. I talked about a few different things. We're kind of coming to the end of the first section of how do we automate our processes a little bit easier. So it took me a lot of time to realize that the value of my time was a lot more than what I was getting out of it when I was managing these processes myself. So the adage of time is money holds true today, and we're working in the perfect time in this space as more and more real estate technology is coming out at very, very low costs. So some of the technologies that I've worked with some property management softwares, online rent collection, tenant screenings, maintenance requests. I'm not going to go through all of these. Marketing automation is a big one. Scheduling tools for showing. A cool one I just found out about was this company called Bruntwork. It's just BRUNT work, and search for it on Google. And I know I said, how do we do this without hiring more help? So this is where I'm going to go back on that a little bit. Bruntwork will actually sub out their employees that they are contracted with to do work for you. And they have specifically a real estate section. So you can hire a real estate social media person through them at a cost of about $7 an hour. They also have a real estate, they call it a property manager person. Again, about the same price. And you can hire them for as many hours a week as you like. You could bring them on full time. So you can use that type of service to help automate and take some of this off your shoulders as well for a very, very inexpensive cost. So I haven't used them yet. I'm actually seriously looking at them right now, but it's something that I found very interesting, and not having to bring on a full person and pay their W-2 withholdings and all of that kind of stuff. So definitely something interesting to take a look at. Alexander, I think we've got one another question in there.
Yes, let me go ahead and pull that up. Which of the following solutions are you using in your rental processes today? We have a multiple choice. You can pick more than one. Property management software, online rent collection services, tenant screening services, maintenance request management, online leasing platforms. So, like would you say that's like your Zillow, apartments.com, or
Which one on the leasing
online
platform?
leasing platforms?
It could be it could be combined with a document tracking system,
Mm,
someone that just
okay,
automates your lease process.
gotcha. Communication automation. So, I'd imagine like texting, mass
Yep,
text.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Replies, AI, receptionist
Gotcha.
assistants, correct.
Yeah, scheduling tools for showings, accounting software, marketing automation tools, document management systems. So
Mhm.
lots here to pick from. So I'll give you all a little bit more time. And in the meantime, I do want to pick up on a few questions that we got that
Great.
came through. And so, first question is, do you suggest to have cameras inside while the property is vacant? And then once you get tenants, remove them?
Uh, it all depends on your geography, right? If you're concerned about potentially break-ins to vacant apartments, yes. I think it's also relevant if you're using a showing system where you're going to allow self showings to have cameras inside the property as well, so that you can ask any questions, or really just watch someone as they're showing the property just for a security's sake. But yes, obviously you do want to remove them as the property is rented. If they're a fixed camera, then what you do is you remove yourself from that camera account, and you have the tenant, then if they'd like to, they can take over those cameras to use them for their own security if they'd like.
Great. Another question that came in as well was, let's see, where did it go? There was a good one here I wanted to bring up. Ah, yes. Do you charge the prospective tenant for the background check prior to the self-showing?
So there are two ways to do that. You can either absorb it yourselves using our platform, or you can charge the tenant. It's a $5 fee. We typically will charge the tenant for that.
Mm.
Tenants don't usually balk at a $5 fee if they're serious. And I know, for example, my daughter lives in New York City, and the fees that she was charged to see places are upwards of $50 or more.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so
Okay.
you can do it either way, but we really haven't seen pushback if for a tenant to pay $5 to do their screening and then be able to see their property on their own. A lot of times they prefer it. They're like, yeah,
Hmm.
I definitely like to do that because I just like to think and go through the property and think about it myself without necessarily someone there. And again, you can have the cameras to watch them as well.
Mm. Very nice. Okay. Robert, what screening service charges just $5? So this is like an initial general
Sure.
background check. It's not a full credit
Correct.
report with all the things. You
Yes.
still
Yeah.
need to
So
do that,
this
right?
is solely to allow them to come see the property. So we're taking their driver's license, making sure that they are who they say they are. The picture on the driver's license matches the person. We're doing a very cursory criminal background check to make sure there's nothing blatant there. But it's
Hmm.
not doing your financials or rental history or anything like that. It's more of a safety and security check to make sure it's a responsible person. Because if someone is giving us their driver's license and doing facial recognition, more than likely they're not going to do something stupid in the property when they're seeing it because they know we have their driver's license. We've checked with the DMV through that check to make sure that's actually legitimate. So it's more cursory than your full check.
Yeah, definitely a good place to start, though. I mean, certainly, if they don't pass that, then you don't need to keep going with it. So, okay, I'm going to end the poll here. So, solution tenant screening is number one. Thankfully, I'm glad y'all are screening. But then we also have online rent collection is a close second there, and then property management software, which often includes the rent collection aspect in it, as well as the accounting software, which, if you're still using QuickBooks, more power to you. But QuickBooks is a good one, but there's others too that have been out now for a while that's specifically for landlords. So, accounting software in general, other than, just not using just an Excel doc, is probably a good way to go tax time. But yeah, any comments there on that, Matt?
Nope, because you just went right into my next slide where I'm talking about
Oh,
quick.
oh, I love that. I didn't even know.
All right, so let's
Wonderful.
go right to accounting software because you did bring that one up.
Hmm.
And right, there are some generic accounting softwares, there are some specific to property management, and there are some basic accounting functionalities within property management software as well. So there are a lot of different avenues you can do to do that. But again, hopefully we're not using Excel spreadsheets too much. So let's look at property management software. So Turbo Tenant is an excellent solution, very inexpensive. They do focus more on the long-term market. They can do short-term, but they can't offer their full suite of services. So they're really designed more for long-term. AppFolio is another solution, Propertyware. I haven't used either of those, but I know a lot of folks that have. Online rent collection services, Cozy and Rentec. Again, property management services, some of them have that included as well. So your tenant screening services, TransUnion, you obviously have some as well, Lisa, Alexandra, some of your own background services. InstaShow, we do our basic screening service. This is one here that probably a lot of people aren't using yet, is our virtual assistant services. So using a chatbot. So basically someone sends you a text message and you have a chatbot that's going back to them saying, oh, this is the property. Can you tell me about how close it is to a school? And you fed this all the information and it gets back and it has a dialogue with the prospective renter to really get them to the point of wanting to see the property, saving you time and effort and making sure that they are pretty much qualified from a needs standpoint, that the property meets their needs. So chatbot is one, Google Assistant, Time Belay. There are a bunch of them out there. Maintenance requests, we talked about Lula. There's also Fresh Service, online scheduling. We talked about InstaShow Calendly, ours, as well as our showing access, and then marketing automation. I love marketing automation myself just because it takes a lot of the headaches away from me. So my emailing goes out, I get automatic replies, I can wait, I can then send another message. So it allows me to really speed up my rental processing. All right, Alexandra, our last question. We finally got to it.
Okay. How many properties are you currently managing? 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 25, 25 to 50, or 50 or more. I'll add to some of these solutions. I heard some in the chat as well for maintenance request. Latchel is one. I don't know if you've heard of that one, Matt, that we've seen pop up.
Yep.
And thank you for mentioning we do offer tenant screening at AAOA. Tenant Alert, our sister company, also offers that as well. And the others are great suggestions. Lots of property management softwares. I mean, we've worked with Inago. I saw that pull up on the chat as well. They're great. There's several different property management softwares, if not dozens at this point. But it really just depends on, what you want to pay for it versus what you're getting out of it, and what features you're using from those softwares that make it worth it or make it a good fit for you. But yeah, all good suggestions. I'm gonna go ahead and show here the results.
Great.
So let's share that. So most of you are 0 to 5, and then closely behind 6 to 10.
Mhm. Excellent. Great. Okay, let's head on over. So now we talked about a lot of the technology and how to automate our processes, which should allow us to free ourselves up to grow our business. So we'll talk about some scenarios of how you might be able to grow your business, as well as reduce some of your costs, and then we'll go into a couple scenarios. So we can look at investing in multifamily properties as well. So if you're doing traditional single-family homes, take a look at multifamily because you have now multiple units and your operating costs can be significant less in managing that property. I've also done this myself. I've formed partnerships and joint ventures. So I have pooled my resources with other investors to look at bigger projects and potentially buy 3 or 4 units in a complex instead of one and get a better not only interest rate but as well as better pricing. I've also shared responsibilities. So one of the things to come out of this situation in Puerto Rico is we basically did a time sharing scenario with about 5 property owners. So we had all lived in different parts of the country and spent time in Puerto Rico. And what we did is we pretty much put a calendar together of who's where and when. And if I knew one of my fellow property managers was here and I had an issue, then they could go in and check and work with my tenant. If I was here and they weren't, I would do that for their property as well. And it works very well. So everyone was happy with that situation. We also did it with maintenance. We also collaborated on our preferred list of contractors. And we went to those contractors and said, look, you've got under our belt of our 5 owners, you've got 23 properties. And we'd like you to be our prime contractor for plumbing. And what we expect from that is, here's the hourly rate we'd like to work with you on. And we'd also like to get premium service within 24 hours. So for them to basically be our primary for 23 units, we wanted some premium service out of them as well. And we also did the same thing for marketing. We shared a lot of marketing resources, expenses, whether it be an Airbnb subscription or Google AdWords, things like that. One of the things I see a lot of people do is they try to be everything to everyone. They try to do a short-term student housing, a senior living, and it's tough to be an expert in all of those things if you haven't made your processes more efficient. So I would say if you're just getting started and maybe fewer than 5, really focus and hone in on what is your specialty. Are you short-term rental? Are you in a student housing area? Or are you a combination of both like I am in Rhode Island? And just understand what your comfort level is with different segments. A lot of people don't want to deal with the Airbnb short-term rental and the turnovers, and something breaks, then it impacts your revenue stream down the road. They're happy with a longer-term rental, and it gives them a much better peace of mind and reduces the stress level. Perfectly fine, and just do what's in your comfort zone. You also want to look at outsourcing non-essential tasks. And these are the virtual assistants that I mentioned earlier. So responding to emails, SMS messages, bringing that potential renter closer to signing a lease and being interested in your property. Again, this can be either a live person, like I mentioned, through Bruntwork, or digital through chatbot, Google Assistant, things like that. And then also look at financing options. So looking at reducing initial cash expenditures to expand your portfolio and the time to market through seller financing, lease options. That's something that I've used. I used that in Puerto Rico as an example because after a lot of storms, just lenders weren't lending, and seller financing had to be a thing if properties wanted to move down here. So you're able to work out better terms. You can work out something with a balloon and expand it, work out different rates, etc. Lease options are another, and it depends on your specific area and the legality. So I've leased properties that they didn't want to sell, but I leased them long-term for 5 years with an explicit option to turn it into a short-term rental for those 5 years. And I was able to basically pay $2,000 a month in rent and make $4,000 to $5,000 in income by doing it short-term. And then it would be all my responsibility, obviously, for property upkeep, etc., and delivering it back after that 5 years, unless I renewed in the same condition I acquired it at. So a couple of different options there to really expand, kind of look beyond your traditional mortgage lender to then expand your properties and and how you can collaborate to do that. Okay, time management. Something, I don't know anyone that's perfect at this, especially with everything we've got going on these days. So it always helps to have a little tools, have a few tools, excuse me. So you want to determine what are your short and long-term goals for your rental. Is your short-term rental or short-term goal to attain X profitability within a year, to have a 15 or 20% cap rate by the end of the year? Are your long-term goals to have 5 properties within the next 18 months, next 24 months, etc.? So define those goals and then start that at the end of the time of the goal and work your way backward. Put a timeline in place for yourself. You also want to establish priorities based on your urgency and importance. We get bombarded with things throughout the day that take us off of our tasks. I get it all the time. So one of the tools that has been out there for such a long time is called this Eisenhower matrix. And it really buckets your tasks into do, schedule, delegate, and delete. Do our tasks with clear deadlines and significant consequences, like water heater is out and it's winter, furnace is out. That's a do. That's an immediate thing. Schedule, tasks with no deadline, but it brings you closer to your goals. Okay, I know my tenant's lease is up in 6 months, and I know they're being transferred with their job elsewhere. So I don't have to paint the garage now, but you know what? In 4 months, maybe I'll paint the garage to get the property ready to show again. Delegating tasks that need to get done, but not my expertise. Again, some of the chat bots, some of the email and SMS text communications are things that you can delegate, not necessarily delegating to a person, but delegating even to a technology. And then tasks that don't have any meaningful value. I mean, every task has meaningful value, so I have no examples. No, just kidding. But we all think of things that take us away from our course of business. And then you just kind of want to delete those. Some of those are social networking engagements that a friend may have brought us into, and they brought us really no value over the last year. Like, okay, let's kind of cut those tasks out of our daily lives and replace it with something that's more meaningful. So there are task management systems out there as well. Asana is a great one. We use that internally. Trello and Monday are some others that can track your tasks to a project deadline. You can also block your time. So I do this a couple of times a week. I block a couple of hours out to not get phone calls, not get appointments booked, so that I can really look at those tasks, go back to that matrix and say, okay, am I allocating my time the right way? So again, the time blocking space, the automation for the repetitive tasks, talked about that a little bit as well. Whether your rent reminders, your maintenance, your tenant communications, automate as much as you can. You want to free up as much time on your calendar as you can, so then you can focus that time on expanding your business. So just go through a couple of quick case studies here. First one is Sarah has 5 single-family homes, and she found it difficult to scale her business and provide good service to her tenant. And she was doing all this manually. So you can imagine that, and it becomes very difficult the larger you get. So she did put 3 solutions together. She used property management software to manage her tracking and her rent payments. She outsourced her maintenance. And she did virtual and self tours, and I'll go through the companies that she worked with that. And within 18 months, she was able to successfully bring on 3 additional properties, doubled her income. Actually, I should say her net income, because she automated a lot more of the processes, which saved her a lot of money. And again, she's reduced a lot of the time that she spent manually doing the processes herself. Another one here is a real estate investment group that we've worked with. So this is a group of investors that pooled their money and they formed their own investment group. They each had various levels of expertise. One was in construction, one was in the mortgage business, one was a realtor, and one had no experience whatsoever, but they brought him on board anyway. So what they did here is they built or worked with a centralized property management software, managed the portfolio, tracking the tenants, tracking the properties. They also decided what their niche market was going to be. So they focused on acquiring student housing near a university, capitalizing on that demand for the rental units. And it's actually a similar area to where I was in Rhode Island. So they also had the short-term rental market if they wanted to do that as well. They automated their marketing, they automated their email campaigns, their social media outreach, all their online ads, and they basically just increased their tenants, attracting new tenants. They doubled their showings without increasing a manual workload. So they expanded their properties portfolio from 5 to 20 properties over a couple of years, boosted their profits, and they still have an efficient model that can allow them to scale from here as well. So just a couple of different ideas, case studies that are relevant to our conversations today. So look at some of the tool sets and costs. So that first one, Sarah, the property owner with 5 properties, she'd actually worked with us. She works with Turbo Tenant as well, and then Lula to combine those 3 applications into her tenant management strategy. So to look at what this strategy provided to her, so from an InstaShow standpoint, we managed her showings and her self-touring. We also helped with remote monitoring of the vacancy properties and the properties being toured. Lula did all the automated maintenance. And then Turbo Tenant handled the tenant screenings, rental applications, e-sig leases, as well as rent notifications and collections. So you can see it's a comprehensive solution that really covers a lot of what we talked about. From a cost perspective, I mean, InstaShow is between free and $19.99 a month, and that $5 showing fee that we talked about earlier. Turbo Tenant has a free plan and then at $149. And Lula's $149, but I believe they're changing their pricing structure, so don't hold me to that. And again, I don't make anything from Turbo Tenant or Lula. I know good solutions when I see them, and wanted to make sure that made everyone aware of those today. All right, last but not least, what can we win? We'd love to talk to you and have a consultation, tell you a little bit about what we do as well. We're also giving away some smart lock boxes, the ones that I showed earlier that connect to your phone and Bluetooth entry. So if we've got some interest, love to have you scan the QR code here, schedule a demonstration. It's only half an hour, and would love to learn more about your business and how you plan to scale. So with that, Alexandra, if we have some questions, let's jump into it.
Yes, great. We have plenty of questions to go over.
All right.
Yes. Someone was asking, Nori, if you know of any property management software that you can just download to your computer and it's not a monthly subscription. I can't think of any. I think almost everything nowadays is a monthly subscription.
I
Fortunately or unfortunately, there's pros and cons, right? Do you
Right.
know of
No, I
any?
can't. I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, Nora, if I find anything, I'll let you know, but that's the way the world is heading today. Everything's on the cloud. Um, Alex asks, any recommendations on how to form partnerships or joint ventures for ownership, buying multi-unit properties? That sounds like a whole other webinar to me.
I know that sounds like a great topic.
Actually, it
We have 2 hours, right? We have an extra hour. We can talk about that.
is.
Um, so I will just a quick caveat.
Mm,
How to form partnerships. Talk to your local builders, right? Your local builders are familiar with projects going in, people looking for funding. They're a great resource. Talk to even your local, if you have rehab or turnover companies in a college town. They're familiar with owners that maybe a little underwater or can't handle it. They're looking to bring on partners as well. So those are 2 good resources.
Great. I did want to mention something as well. I'll wait for a moment here. I'm going to take this question first, also from Nori here. She says, I only do a background and credit check after the showings when prospective tenants like the property and then they pay for it. The question is, how do you do a background check? Who pays for it before the showings? I think it's such a great idea to check them first and have the facial recognition before the showing. I've never done that. Please help me. How?
Sure. Well, if you click that QR code right there, I'll show you how. But I'll give you the
Yeah.
quick answer right here. So what we do is, if your property is listed on our application on our site, you could have a yard sign in front that has a QR code where they can click, they can download the app, they can see the pictures and get perspective on your property. If they're interested, then they register on our application. They don't have to do that when they download it. It's only when they finally want to see a property. What the application does is it asks to take a picture of them. You can see on this graphic here to the left. And you have to blink and move your head and make sure you're alive and not just a cardboard cutout. Then it asks to submit the driver's license, do that cursory check. And then make sure everything matches and make sure their documents are legitimate and they really don't have much of a criminal background record that would preclude them or preclude from you from wanting to show them. It doesn't do the financial, it doesn't do any of that. This is definitely more for a safety check at this point for you. You could do the financial check beforehand if you wanted to. You could work through Alexandra and Tenant Alert on that. And I do know for a fact that, again, my daughter in New York, she had to do the full credit check. It was great. They had 62 times monthly income in assets. I said, this kid just came out of college. How's that going to happen? But you can do it. You can do it. It's just a part of how you want to put it in your process. The quickest and least expensive way is right now is InstaShow. That'll give you a cursory background if that's what you're more concerned about. If it's the financial background you're looking for, then and I know Alexandra can help you with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitra was asking, how do you manage the showing? I imagine she might be meaning the scheduling
Mhm.
of the showings if you're out of state. So you'll all have a scheduler, right, that you use. You
Absolutely.
talked
Yep.
about that briefly.
Yeah, you can see that in this graphic right here.
Hmm.
So say I'm creating the property. I can put in the dates that I want showings to be available. I can also put in any times during the day.
Yeah, Mitra
And
says physical showing. How do you manage the physical showing? Which is what you just said, right? The person arrives at the showing.
yes, so if it's a showing with the property manager, you can show as you traditionally do. If you're going to allow self-showing, you can schedule through here as well. Now, the thing is with InstaShow is you can really do both. You don't have to use the lock. You can use the scheduling function of it as well and use it to basically automate your schedule. And if you just use InstaShow for a single property and without a lock, the only fees you have are the $5 for someone to do their facial recognition, which you can pass on to the person that's looking at the property.
Yeah, I had someone else in the chat ask because California has some new laws about the rental application fees. You don't have to have the tenant pay for it, right? The landlord could pay the $5 fee if
Yes.
they choose.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And so which fee? That was the tenant application fee.
Yeah, that $5 fee you were just talking about.
Yeah,
If, yeah.
it'd be interesting to see from California. I don't think our fee applies because it's not a tenant application.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's to actually see the property, right? So it could be a gray area depending on, who wants to litigate it in California, but it's not a application fee.
Gotcha. All right, Mitra, I would suggest connecting with InstaShow and scanning the QR code so they can show you exactly how it would work. She says she's 400 miles away from her property in California. So,
I definitely need to
yeah.
talk to you.
Yeah, we can give you some more specifics there on that.
Right.
Um, so I wanted to show you all something. If you don't mind, Matt, I want to share my screen
Yeah, go for it.
real quickly. Um, you mentioned an online application. We have one, so I know y'all have, most of you have an account here with us. When you log into your account here on the left, you can click.
Alexander, do I have to stop showing? Because it shows I'm still sharing it.
Oh, let's see. Is it not showing my screen here? Let's see. Okay, it says I'm sharing now.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I
Okay.
think that worked now. Thanks for mentioning that. So once you're logged into your account here, you can click screen a tenant down here or tenant screening in the menu to screen a tenant. When you get to the page where you're supposed to screen the tenant and you scroll down, we now have a free online rental application where you can generate a link. This does not screen them if you don't want them to be screened right away. This would just collect the information. So it's a comprehensive application where we can get their name, date of birth, their previous addresses, pets, all of that. And then you can copy that link there. You can post it on wherever you want to post it, Zillow, or, you email it to them. And then it takes them to this page where they can basically, fill out an application. This is brand new. It's completely free. So if you all want to use this, certainly feel free to create a free account with us if you don't have one already, and then go into that tenant screening page. And then you'll see here, this is the application that they would fill out. And then you get an email notification whenever something's filled out. They can even upload documents as well. If you want any of these, they're optional for them to upload. But if you require it, you can let them know, hey, I want you to, upload those too. And then from there, like I said, you get notified. And then if you do want to screen them and you do like them and they did go to the showing, then you can just click a button in your account to complete the screening. And then you can pay for that or they can pay for it. But ultimately, the collection of the information is really simple here. We have it all digital now.
Excellent. I have to look into
Yeah.
that as well, see how we can build that into our process.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
I think, it's certainly very helpful to have something that's, you don't have to give a paper form to someone or email it to them and wait for them to give it back to you.
Right.
Um, okay, is that an additional fee? No, this is completely free. So when you log in, just go to tenant screening to screen your tenant. Right underneath the tenant screening packages, you'll see there the free online rental application. And it's, yep, completely free. All right, a couple other questions that came in. Any suggestions for managing a tenant who smokes in your property when you have a no smoking policy in the lease? Have you come across that yet, Matt?
Um, Not that I can prove. How about
Aha, that's
that?
that is the key thing. And I've
That's
heard I've
key.
heard this from so many landlords. It's like, gosh, I can't really prove it. So your
Right.
case is really not too
I mean,
strong
I
if
did
you
have a
if you can't
tenant leave
prove
some
it.
illicit, I did have a tenant leave some illicit material on the top of a refrigerator once, but that you can
Oh,
prove. That you can prove. That was short term. There's nothing I can do. Um,
yeah, smoking is tough.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have much help on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, my suggestion is to talk to an attorney, of course. I know you guys hear me say that all the time, but it's true. They could probably tell you if, there is a way for you to gather some evidence, maybe witnesses, maybe you have cameras outside. I don't know. You can't look inside if they're smoking inside. So I'm not too sure. It's hard to really pinpoint, the proof when it comes to that. And then to take them to court and show that it's a leasing violation is difficult. So I would talk to an attorney to make sure you have a solid case there. Another question from Stacy. How do you handle larger mitigation projects like water leaks that are insurance claims? Do you oversee these?
Yes. Yeah, so you will want to, and I have to check with Lula to see if they combine insurance in there as well. You don't definitely want to take a look on that. But yeah, so I would. If it's an insurance situation, I would definitely work with the contractor and indicate, okay, this is an insurance issue. Take all the pictures you can. And if it's something like a water leak, I've had that happen before. The insurance company understands that I need to get it cleaned up right away. So as long as I
Mhm.
take the pictures or have the contractor take the pictures, I haven't had any problem with getting insurance claims paid. It's
Great.
making sure that if you're not there, that your contractor takes adequate documented pictures. And if you have a contractor that's been in the business for a long time and is reputable, they're going to know exactly what the insurance company needs. So it goes back to finding that contractor and those contractors that have worked with insurance claims before and are familiar with those processes.
Great, great answer. Robert asking, what repairs are considered tenant responsibility to pay?
Holes in the walls from pictures, dings, dents, broken windows from inside, dents in drywall, those kinds of things. Those kinds of things.
Yep.
I usually put in my leases anything up to either 100 or $200 in just things that are not intentionally damaged. They pick up, and then anything above that is my responsibility.
Yeah. Desiree says, what about gouges in the hardwood floor? Um, Potentially.
Well, that's a balance between wear and tear and actual damage, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you you kind of have to mitigate that yourself, and you have to, if you're going to kind of go after something like that, you've got to make sure that you have pictures documented when you sign that lease with the tenant, and make those pictures part of the lease agreement. So you're both in agreement as to the condition of the property, when the tenant took possession.
Yeah, and that's actually required by law now in California. You have to take pictures now before they move in and
So I
after.
want to I want to go back a step, Alexandra, because I did a little research. I'm
Sure.
multitasking here. I'm using my do and delete and stuff like that. There's a company called Wind Technologies, which detects cigarettes and marijuana in rental properties.
Oh, I gotta write that one
It's
down.
WYND.
Okay, we'll have to check them out. They must have like a little device you can install, huh? Like,
Yeah, or something that changes color or something like that. I don't know, like a test something. Yeah.
very cool, very cool. There's something for everything now. Okay, I'll have to take a look at that one as well. What about crayons and marker drawings on the walls? It's probably not
Yeah,
regular wear
that's
and tear.
he's got to pay for that one.
Yeah.
Get the magic sponge and take it off.
All right.
That's a good point though. When you paint your property, you want to, I forget if it's eggshell or whatever one is the one that's easiest to clean up. So you want to
Yes.
consider that too.
Yeah, and there's anti-scuff paint. I mean, it's a little more expensive, but certainly is worth it if you have a rental, especially as I'm seeing the next few questions are about allowing pets and emotional support animals. And so if there is a potential that you could have a dog or cat or, even more so of a reason to have, good on your doors, good paint, good hardwood floors, like maybe laminate, is better. Robert asking, how do you control a policy of no pets? Um, so in California, if one has a comfort dog or emotional support animal, the landlord cannot prevent the tenant from moving the dog
Yeah,
in.
I think that's national actually.
It is
American
federal.
Disabilities Act.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, as knowing a family member that has a support, actually an ADA service animal, I know that pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to have to be that's a tougher one than the smoking one. Now that we figured that one out, that's going to have to be witnessing and seeing them. They're going to pet. They're going to have to take it out, right? They're going to have to walk it. That's where external cameras could actually come into play because you're not breaching privacy with external cameras.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I suppose if it's a cat, they might be indoors most of the
Yes,
time, but
true, true.
I
Yeah.
mean, if it's a dog, for sure they have to, I'd hope they'd come out
Mhm.
of the house. Also, too, the other thing that we've seen a lot is when they are caught with the animal, that they then will move forward to put in the emotional support animal claim, in which case they are allowed to do that. In fact, I don't think a lot of you realize they can do that request at any point. You don't have to approve the request. They still have to go through the different, you know,
Yes.
qualifications for it, but technically they could just say, well, I was about to ask you for the emotional support and here's my request officially, and then you have to
Right.
consider it. Hmm.
So what's interesting, there's a big difference between emotional support and ADA service. Um, ADA service animal, you can't ask the tenant what the disability is. You can ask what the animal performs, what action it does.
Mm.
It's become more difficult for emotional support. And I know, for example, for the airlines, I believe emotional support, you actually have to have a letter from a doctor or psychiatrist or whatever that determines that you have the need for this. And that doctor's license is on the line if it's found to be fraudulent. So obviously, your state laws may supersede, and your local laws may, but be cautious around emotional support. There obviously are valid reasons for it, but we also know there are areas it's being taken advantage of. And understand your laws that emotional support in a lot of cases you actually do need a medical so-called prescription for the support animal.
Yes, that is required. And it's funny, speaking of planes, I recently traveled with my dog. They don't even have emotional support as as an available option anymore. It has to be a service animal.
Mhm.
And otherwise you have to pay to have your dog travel with you. And the service animal requirements are more strict even than what was previously for the emotional support, and they are different. So there's a whole other webinar we are actually going to be doing on this, which is going to be mark your calendars, April 23rd. We will be having an entire class, a master class on verifying emotional support animals and service animals. So mark your calendars, April 23rd. I'll invite you to that. That's a great topic. Other question related, do you charge pet deposit or pet rent? So that's still legal if it's a pet, right?
Yes.
Do you charge pet rent at your rentals or have you
Yes.
before? Great.
Yep.
How much do you
I think
charge?
I think like a 500 security.
Nice.
If I knew the person, I would just do a security.
Mm,
If I didn't know, and again, if I'm looking on social media and looking at the condition of the places they've lived in, I may increase the rent for a pet fee, monthly pet fee.
great. Oh, side comment, Rodney and Fulgencio both agreeing that the eggshell is the best to clean.
All right.
Eggshell with semi-gloss is probably the best because it's a good balance between, the matte and the high gloss, and it's the easiest. So keep that in mind, guys. Robert, no, you can't charge pet rent for an emotional support animal nor for a service animal.
Right. Yep.
That's federal.
Mhm.
Rodney says he also checks the courts online for criminal records or eviction records. That's a great idea. So if you do, some courts, they allow you to do an online search or they'll charge you a fee. If you know that tenant has lived for sure in that county, you could go directly to the court and do it. Sometimes, like I said, there's a fee or they might have like a time frame that you have to wait, but it would be the most accurate in terms of like timing, right? They're going to give you whatever records they have right now, which is great. Most of the time, though, you want to do also like a national background check so that you can make sure that if they lived somewhere or were, convicted for a crime somewhere else other than where they lived or where they told you that they lived, that you would be able to find that out as well. So it's good to do that, but I wouldn't stop there, is basically my idea. What do you think, Matt? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, agree, right? And especially if you see they have a history of maybe less than 2 years in your local county or state or geography, you kind of want to know a little bit about that as well. You also need to be conscious of your local laws. I mean, you may not be able to refuse them depending on the circumstance. So there are certain
Mm,
circumstances you can and certain ones that you can't. And let's be honest, there are some tenants that prey on landlords that don't know those rules. So you want to be careful and make sure you understand the rules of what you can and cannot just deny someone for.
yes, absolutely. And that's another webinar we'll probably do again soon. We talked on so many topics today, Matt. Thank you so much for bringing all these great tools and resources to our
Absolutely.
attention. I think, I'm familiar with some of them, but I learned about actually quite a few that I didn't know about. And
Great.
now this one for smoking and marijuana smoke, I'm got to check that one out too. But really, we appreciate you sharing all of your expertise and your experience. We love what you're doing at InstaShow. I think it's a great tool to help our members really, automate so much of what, takes a lot of just time
Right.
out of the day to do as a landlord. So appreciate you working on that. And I hope to have you back soon so we can,
Yeah,
see what
love
else
to.
you all have done since
All
then.
right.
Mhm.
Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.